brother. Let's face it, losing your job absolutely sucks. And maybe it isn't so bad for pro wrestlers now that there are some decent alternatives out there, but it's still quite a blow. Wrestlers can lose their jobs for poor performance, behavior issues, or the creative team simply doesn't have any ideas for them. And sometimes the reasons for getting let go are really weird. I'm Senior Siete for 7 Wrestling, and let's take a look at 7 more WWE wrestlers who were fired for crazy reasons. Now, before we get into this, we appreciate your support, so if you enjoyed this content, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and doomsday device that notification bell. Also, Gordon Holmes, the guy who does all of my Senior Siete drawings, has released a graphic novel about pro wrestling. It's called The Bad Guy from Legacy Comics. It's a heartwarming tale of wrestling and marriage. We'd love for you to support him as he's done so much to support us. You'll find a link to purchase the graphic novel in the description below. Number 1. Daniel Bryan. The first incarnation of NXT wasn't the 2-hour Tuesday night show lovingly crafted by Shawn Michaels. You know, basically the WWE's minor league. No, the first time the initials NXT were used was for somewhat of a game show featuring future WWE stars. The new talents would be paired with a mentor and compete in a series of bizarre challenges. And at the end of the first season, Wade Barrett emerged victorious, even though he never quite learned how to adequately put his arms inside of a coat. For his win, Barrett would be granted a WWE contract and a title match at an upcoming pay-per-view. Then they went in a very different direction. On the June 7th, 2010 edition of Monday Night Raw, shortly after the first season of NXT had ended, the entire cast of the show, now known as the Nexus, would straight up destroy that night's main event. The combatants, CM Punk and John Cena, were absolutely wrecked. The announcers and the ringside staff were assaulted. The ring itself was ripped to shreds. We had never seen anything quite like it. And in the aftermath, one member of the Nexus committed a major no-no. Ironically, it was the person from that group who would go on to find the greatest success. We're talking about Daniel Bryan. Now, what did he do that was so wrong? Well, he choked out ring announcer Justin Roberts with his own necktie. And while that may seem pretty tame for a company that uses chairs, thumbtacks, and other various assorted foreign objects, choking was seen as a dangerous act that could easily be imitated by children. Ultimately, the firing was just to appease those who didn't want to jeopardize the TV PG rating or the Mattel toy contract. Bryan was hired back a few months later, made one of the stars of the SummerSlam main event, and would go on to do pretty alright for himself. Number 2. Matt Hardy. Matthew Hardy, what a unique career this fella has had. One half of arguably the most popular tag teams of the 2000s. I'd make a case for having one of the most successful gimmick reinventions of all time, and being fired for maybe one of the most unique reasons of all time. You see, Matt's girlfriend cheated on him with one of his best friends, and he talked about it too much online. Yeah, we've definitely covered this a few times. Matt Hardy was out with an injury, his girlfriend Lita was making time with the future rated R superstar Edge, and when Hardy found out and rightfully lost his shiz, he was fired for being too public with his disdain. But we're going to go for a twofer for Matt Hardy today. Matt was eventually hired back, and he and Edge actually worked together in a feud, with Lita sticking by Edge's side. From there, he'd enjoy some success as the ECW champion and the United States champion, but by 2010, things were not looking good for the elder member of Team Extreme. Jeff had left for the lighter schedule and, let's be honest, lighter wellness policy of TNA, and Matt had suffered a serious abdominal injury that was affecting both his physique and his in-ring work. This all came to a head after Matt Hardy was sent home from a European tour for reasons that were never fully disclosed. Rumors at the time stated that Hardy had caused quite a scene of some sort. From there, Hardy would get kind of creepy, making bizarre posts on social media. He'd post disturbing videos where it was unclear if he was either horribly depressed or workshopping some kind of new character. The most famous of these is when he cut a promo on his love for grapes. It was weird. I mean, I get it, grapes rule, but come on. The WWE would finally have enough and release Hardy from his contract in October of that year. Number 3, Sha Stasia. Some of the biggest stars of today are second and third generation talents. I mean, just look at the main event of night 1 of WrestleMania 40. The Rock's dad, Rocky Johnson. Roman Reigns' dad, Sika Anawahi. Cody Rhodes' dad, Goldust. Just kidding. I know it's Dusty Rhodes. He's mentioned it a time or two. And poor Seth Rollins, I have no idea what his dad does. Maybe he's some kind of giant sunglasses manufacturer. At any rate, for as successful as some of these Nepo wrestlers are, there are just as many who can't quite figure it out. Talking about David Flair, Curtis Axel, Ted DiBiase, but wow, none of them had the look or physique of Sha Stasia. The son of former WWE champion Stan Stasiak, Shawn seemed like a sure thing back in 1999. However, one of the habits he picked up on the way up the wrestling ladder was keeping a tape recorder in his bag so he could practice cutting wrestling promos. Well, according to Stasiak, as a prank, he recorded some conversations between different WWE superstars, and it did not go as intended. On the two-man power trip of wrestling shows, Stasiak would say, "I just played a rib on a couple guys that I was going to play back for them, and that backfired." Simple as that, and they made it look real bad, and I ended up getting fired. Shawn would be back with the company a few years later as a part of the WCW purchase, but that didn't go well either. Poor guy. I mean, he probably just had visions of himself as a hilarious scamp, a jacked-up Kevin McAllister with a talk boy. Number 4, Buff Bagwell. From the handsome stranger to Marietta, Georgia's favorite son, to Stars and Stripes, to Two Cold Scorpios' dancing buddy, to American Males, to finally Buff the Stuff, through all of it, one thing has been constant. He's Judy Bagwell's baby boy, to the degree that it had become somewhat of a running joke in wrestling circles, to the point that at the New Blood Rising 2000 pay-per-view, WCW literally hosted a Judy Bagwell on a forklift match. I've seen dumber ideas. Also, let's not forget this woman was one half of the World Tag Team Champions with Rick Steiner. This is all making David Arquette seem very sane by comparison. It's just a known fact that Judy Bagwell handles all of Buff's business. And if you saw Vice's Dark Side of the Ring episode, you'll know that includes all of Buff's business, as in, she shaved his nether regions for him. Yeah, sorry to have to spell that out for you. Good luck getting that image out of your head. So, when Buff came to the WWE, that reputation came with him. And when Judy Bagwell called Jim Ross to take care of some of Buff's business, good old JR was not having it. He'd say on his Grilling JR podcast, "You know, we had a conversation on the phone once. I said, I want to talk to Mark, not to her. With all due respect, I'd never met the lady. I didn't know her. I have no issues with her. I've just made it clear that when Marcus wants to talk about his WWE run, he should just call me." Buff Bagwell was eventually released for a variety of reasons. You know, the horrific WCW Raw main event between he and Booker T, a fight with Shane Helms, and his overall attitude, but the interactions with his mother certainly did not help. Number 5, Fit Finlay. Fit Finlay was a no-nonsense brawler whose legendary feud with William Regal provided some of the hardest-hitting matches in WCW history. But he was Irish, so when he came to WWE, Vince McMahon was probably like, "Get him a leprechaun and a shillelagh stick, damn it." That goofiness aside, Finlay had a pretty good run in WWE as well before he eventually retired for a backstage role. The Belfast native was given the task of improving the WWE's women's division and is responsible for coaching names ranging from Trish Stratus and Lita to Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. But it was one questionable decision he made during a WWE house show that earned him a pink slip. Every show starts with the playing of the Star Spangled Banner, and Finlay made the call to interrupt the song with the Miz's entrance music in an effort to get Miz more heat. He would tell The Sun UK, "We had Miz going out first, and because it was just before WrestleMania, we were trying to get as much heat on him as possible. So my spur-of-the-moment call as I sat right by the technician was to tell him to hit Miz's music while they were halfway through the national anthem. Of course, people were up in arms about it, but it was a good reaction as a heel. But there were National Guard people in the building who took exception to it, and I understand that fully. It wasn't intended to insult anybody in that way. It was just part of an entertaining show. That's what we do. We entertain. It's about cheers and boos." Finlay was hired back shortly afterwards and has since been laid off and rehired again. Number 6. Zelina Vega. WWE superstars are technically not employees, they're independent contractors. This is all in an effort to reduce costs and limit liabilities for the company, as WWE is not obligated to provide benefits like health insurance or retirement plans. This arrangement also gives WWE flexibility in managing its talent, allowing them to release or negotiate contracts more easily. However, despite this classification, the WWE exerts significant control over its wrestlers, which is wildly controversial. For example, in 2020, the WWE started to crack down on their talent's use of third-party platforms such as Twitch and Cameo to create side revenue streams. Zelina Vega, the WWE's resident nerdy queen, took exception to this crackdown as she had a significant following on Twitch and an OnlyFans account that featured photos of her in cosplay and lingerie. Or so I've heard. Zelina was fired over this infraction on November 13, 2020. It was around this time that Vega would tweet her support for a wrestlers' union, an idea that has never been able to gain much of a foothold in the United States and is something the WWE has been avoiding at all costs. She even reportedly had a conversation with then Screen Actors Guild president Gabrielle Carteris. Oh, hey Andrea Zuckerman. But alas, nothing would come from this, as Vega would re-sign with the WWE on July 2, 2021, and the unionization tweet would magically disappear. Number 7. Jim Ross. A Herculean task is one that is extremely difficult or requires an incredible amount of effort, things such as slaying a Hydra, stealing the mares of Diomedes, or, keeping Ric Flair from making a drunken spectacle of himself. Poor JR was given that task and failed. In the lead up to SummerSlam 2013, the WWE was hosting a panel to celebrate the 30 years of WrestleMania mode in the WWE 2K14 video game. On the stage were such stars as Steve Austin, Daniel Bryan, Rey Mysterio, Paul Heyman, Mick Foley, and the Nature Boy himself. And Rick was in rare form, telling long-winded stories that veered off in several directions, swearing, calling out past grudges. It was a whole thing. Ross tried to make the best out of a rough situation with quips like, "I'd like to thank Grey Goose for sponsoring this portion of the broadcast," but it was a train wreck. Reportedly, WWE was immediately on the phone with 2K Games to apologize for the incident. In the aftermath, we wouldn't see Ric Flair for quite some time, and poor Jim Ross was straight up fired. JR would tell Grantland, "I was conductor of a runaway train. I was supposed to keep it on the tracks and it didn't happen. So I don't have any issues taking responsibility. Did I envision that it would help facilitate my exit? No, but I could see their thinking behind it." Well, maybe next time Jim Ross can get an easier gig like, I don't know, keeping Chris Jericho off of TV. Well, there's our list. Did we forget any other wrestlers who were fired for crazy reasons? If so, please leave them in the comment section below. Also, if you enjoyed this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and double underhook powerbomb that notification bell. Don't forget to check out the description for a link to Gordon Holmes' graphic novel, The Bad Guy. Till next time, I'm Senior Siete for 7 Wrestling saying bye-bye.